Although it wasn't made clear that King Clark wouldn't play until just before the game, did you witness the moment rookie Kiki pushed Sophie Cunningham to the ground? The Mystics believed they could intimidate the Fever without Caitlin Clark on the court, but Sophie wasn't having it. She immediately looked the rookie in the eyes and said, "You don't do that." The Mystics player grinned, but Sophie was infuriated by the altercation and responded by scoring 21 points against. Sophie Cunningham has been an absolute beast in this game as the Fever handed them a crushing loss. She has played 34 minutes, 6 of 11 from the field, 54%, and 21 points. However, the drama didn't end with the final whistle. Tension continued to build long after the final buzzer, and what happened next will completely shock you. But before we get to that, let's go back to the moment that set off the fireworks, because Kiki's actions were completely out of line because she shoved Sophie Cunningham to the ground. Sophie Cunningham, spicy old Sophie Cunningham, gets into a fight with Kiki Urifan, a rookie from USC who is no longer playing basketball, over a rebound. It was just plain intimidation tactics from someone who hadn't earned her spot in the league yet, and Sophie wasn't having any of it. She essentially gives her welcome to the league talk by saying, "You don't bleep and do that. You don't bleep and do that." Sophie's response became the pivotal moment. She sprang up right away, didn't sulk for even a moment, and faced Kiki directly with those unmistakable words you heard. The broadcast showed Sophie telling her after that blatant, "You don't mother effing do that. You don't mother effing do that" statement, which reverberated throughout the court and set a boundary that needed to be established. It was the spark that changed the entire game's energy. Imagine pushing a well-respected veteran to the hardwood and then smiling about it. That smile exposed Kiki's true intentions, which were to show flagrant disdain for an established player. Her answer just made matters worse. This is the worst part of the WNBA, Kiki Urifan, I have to say. There is so much reaction and smiles, and then let's get negative. Deanna Bonner rushed over to confront Brittany Sykes about their rookie behavior, making it clear that such disrespect would not be tolerated against her teammate. The confrontation showed how united this Fever team had become, standing together against unnecessary aggression. Meanwhile, the Mystics bench displayed a smugness throughout the incident, as if social media went crazy after fans criticized the Mystics for their dirty play and disrespect for basketball etiquette. Comments about how this behavior had no place in the game, especially from a rookie with no experience, poured in. They felt they could intimidate the Fever by having Caitlin Clark off the court. Their body language screamed that they saw this as their opportunity to send a message to a team they perceived as vulnerable. It wasn't hard basketball. This was a rookie trying to make headlines through disrespect. Sophie Cunningham's quick response showed why she commands respect throughout the league. She stood her ground and made sure Kiki understood that she had broken the unwritten code among professionals. They have no qualifications to challenge established players, and the retards, or what I like to call the RAHTARDS, they are already attacking Sophie Cunningham. They're mad at the MAGA Barbaries. They're encouraging violence against this basketball player. Sophie wasn't just going to talk, she was going to show the Mystics exactly who they were up against. That push didn't make her weaker. Rather, it strengthened her resolve to make them pay where it counts most on the scoreboard. However, we're right back to where we were last year, people. The season has just begun, and I suppose we're going to have wars again. Come on, let's play, because the Indiana Fever didn't start off on a winning note, because believe me, the Fever were kicking off the dust, and the Fever looked completely lost without Caitlin Clark, and their defense was just falling apart. It was like watching a completely different team than what we've been seeing lately, with the Mystics running all over them. And to be honest, it looked like this game was going to end before it even started. However, listen, the Mystics had a ton of picks in the WNBA draft. They got a lot of high picks. They got Kiki Urifan, and they gave everyone a lot of grace at the beginning of the game. The Mystics came into this game loaded with talent. They had Sutton in there, Kiki, who we already know isn't afraid to get physical, and Brittany Sykes, who is always a problem for opposing teams. You could see it in their faces when they realized Clark wasn't playing. They thought they had this game wrapped up and were practically celebrating before tip-off as if they'd been handed a free win just because the rookie sensation was sidelined. Sonia Citron started today, and Sonia Citron looked good, including Brittany Sykes. Sydney Colson started for the Indiana Fever, but nothing was clicking at all. The offense looked stagnant, the passes were sloppy, and nobody seemed to know where they needed to be. It was like watching a train without a conductor, just rolling around with no one to lead. Colson was running the point, and that really wasn't working out. Steph White kept inserting Sid in too, and at one point in the third quarter, I was wondering if she was going to try out any of the rookies because Sid was really not contributing at all to the Indiana direction the Mystics took full advantage of, jumping passing lanes, getting easy baskets in transition, and building that lead while the Fever appeared completely disorganized. However, something changed when Sophie Cunningham entered the game. She finished as the game's top scorer for both teams, finishing with 21 points and 8 rebounds. I must admit that it is very clear when Caitlin Clark is not playing for the Indiana Fever. She is the X factor for the team, and as I've said before, she leads the way when the arena, which had become quiet with resignation, suddenly hummed with new energy when Sophie Cunningham stepped onto the court. Her eyes had a burning intensity, and after that earlier push, her jaw was set and her shoulders squared like a boxer, entering the ring with something to prove that the energy of the entire team changed the moment she checked in. This was done to send a message that you don't disrespect the Indiana Fever and get away with it. But first, let's take a moment to look at Sophie Cunningham. She went 6 for 11 from the field, capturing perfectly what the team needed. Without Clark, that toughness, that grit, that refusal to back down like a phoenix rising from the ashes of that disastrous first quarter. Coach Stephanie White would later say of Bonner, who for the first time in her Indiana Fever uniform looks like she's moving the ball to Sophie, who then kicks it to Kelsey, who then kicks it back to Sophie. For the jump, her three-point percentage was 33%, which is pretty damn good for someone who has never played with other teammates. Paisley White observed how Sophie pushes everyone around her to play at a higher level, and the effect rippled through the lineup in real time. Listen to this. Sophie is a dog. She's a competitor. She's versatile, and she lets us do different things. She plays with such toughness. You know, she's going to be for us all season long, but what she brings from an energy standpoint is that she pushes everyone around her to play at a higher level as soon as she steps foot on the floor, hell, even on the sidelines. Knowing that she's an X factor, Sophie dominated the game with 21 points and 8 rebounds, leading both teams in scoring, going 6 for 1 from the field and making 33% from three-point range. She changed from being a role player to a game changer. Every drive to the basket had a purpose. Instead of settling for jump shots, she attacked the rim, drawing contact and finishing through defenders when the Fever needed clutch shots. She hustled on defense. The stats only partially revealed the story. Each basket seemed to erode the Mystics' confidence while giving her teammates newfound energy. Back the Fever's Kelsey Mitchell, who struggled through a scoreless first quarter, started feeding off Sophie's energy and finding her rhythm, getting the ball in good positions and making crucial plays at pivotal moments. The Mitchell-Cunningham connection became the engine that powered the Fever back into contention, giving the Mystics more than they bargained for. Kelsey Mitchell was also readjusting to life again, but she was bricked and had the ball in her hands a lot. Shot a lot, the Mystics had no response to Sophie Cunningham's fire, which knocked her down and only made her more determined. This was supposed to intimidate, but instead they encountered a player who was playing as if she had a score to settle and winning. Sophie didn't just play well, she changed the game, turning a likely blowout into an overtime victory out of sheer willpower. The crowd, which had been silent without Clark, came alive with every shot she made. This game demonstrated that the Fever have depth. Clark may be the team's face, but Sophie demonstrated their tenacity. And the Mystics left knowing that Indiana is a multifaceted team. However, the story is far from over because After Sophie Cunningham embarrassed the Fever by scoring 21 points and leading them to victory, the Mystics players didn't even have the grace to offer a handshake or show sportsmanship. Instead, they simply walked away as if they couldn't handle the fact that they had lost. The Mystics were displaying poor sportsmanship at its core after their intimidation tactics failed. They attempted to bully the Fever by pushing Sophie to the ground, but when that failed, they were unable to face them after the game. What kind of message does that send, that when you can't win by intimidation, you refuse to acknowledge the other team? This league is just unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. The classless players and acts throughout this league are wild. It should come as no surprise that the Mystics Fever, a team owned by Sheila Johnson herself, gave us what we saw during the game. Of course, Mrs. Johnson, why not put the entire WNBA on the cover of Time magazine, since Caitlin Clark won Athlete of the Year in a very racist, let's keep it real, hatefully raced CNN interview a few months ago. The connection to ownership becomes evident when you look at Sheila Johnson, the team's owner. Her attitude has permeated every level of the organization like water flowing downhill, saturating every level with the same negativity. The players' behavior isn't random. It reflects a culture that was established at the top. The disrespect shown during and after the game is rooted in this organizational DNA. So last night we read in Time magazine that Caitlin Clark won Athlete of the Year. Why couldn't they have featured the entire WNBA on the cover and stated that given all of our talent, the WNBA is the league of the year? The seeds were sown even before tip-off when Johnson publicly declared Clark undeserving, displaying blatant bias against the Fever's star. There has been a direct cause and effect relationship between the Mystics organization's hostile energy toward the Fever from the beginning. Johnson's comments set the tone, and her players followed suit on the court. When you repeatedly single out one player, it causes animosity, and now you're hearing stories of racism within the WNBA, and I don't want to hear that. Johnson has been repeatedly criticized for creating this hostile environment and making divisive remarks. She has effectively inoculated her organization with negativity. How can players show respect when the leadership sets the example? This is what happens when hatred runs an organization. One particularly popular post compared the Mystics to a team playing with their owners' personal grudges as playbooks. And the public realized that this wasn't isolated behavior, but rather systematic. The opposite in organizations occurs when the Mystics players' actions directly reflect their leadership's mindset. Of course, we see the tactics, the spill on the online response, which was immediate and united basketball fans across platforms, connected the dots between ownership attitude and player behavior. Comments flooded in like owner, like team. The Fever and Sophie Cunningham showed professionalism and resilience despite being physically pushed down by playing better basketball and winning fairly, while the Mystics only displayed pettiness by pushing players, refusing to shake hands, and leaving like sore losers. This incident revealed a troubling trend in the WNBA where the top team has adopted the persona of their owner that might happen dirty, classless, and unprofessional. Some teams put their personal grudges ahead of sportsmanship, and we're seeing divisions that have nothing to do with healthy competition and are purely based on negativity. Is this the WNBA's desired image, with teams refusing to practice basic sportsmanship and using physical intimidation? Or should it highlight exceptional basketball talent like Cunningham showed? It's one thing to be physically strong, but it's another to be slinging people on the basketball court and all that kind of stuff. And that's where things start to go wrong. They believe that without Caitlin Clark, the Mystics should reevaluate their organizational culture because their actions damaged not only their team, but the integrity of the league. Instead of intimidating the Fever into submission, they exposed themselves as unsportsmanlike while still losing. They played dirty and sacrificed both the game and their reputation. Basketball should celebrate competition, respect, and sportsmanship, all of which were lacking from the Mystics' performance. Fans rightfully expect better, and the WNBA deserves teams dedicated to the sport's highest values rather than its lowest impulses. Sophie Cunningham gave the Mystics exactly what they deserved with 21 points of pure payback. Her response after being pushed spoke volumes on the scoreboard, and Coach White called her a dog and a competitor who raises the level of play of everybody around her. Although we know we have a lot of things to clean up, finding a way to win like that is really important. Sophie did a great job just bringing everyone together and getting them on the same page. But a defeat and a reputation as the league's most unsportsmanlike team, the Resilient Fever, demonstrated what true competition looks like. Will this underdog team continue to overcome the negativity? This game brought attention to the WNBA's growing issue of unsportsmanlike behavior. Fans are phoning from all around